Oh man, it was a blessing how hot it was this weekend for the band show in Kentucky here that I went to, but it's very out of character. I feel like it's not usually like 78 on October 22nd.
Yeah, a couple of our commenters and followers have joked about we should start our own like aged out weather updates, but we always talk about the weather. It's like the end all be all of small talk. You get in the cab or the Uber. Hey, how's
Yeah,
the
you know,
weather
you
today?
you
But
pop the beer at the beginning. It's like, you don't want it to be forced. You just kind of like, well, what's on your mind? Well, the weather. So whatever.
it
Uh,
feels great, and I'm sure it feels great where our guest is, which is awesome because it probably always feels great there.
yeah,
I'm sure, obviously, everybody can tell from the title, but I'll let you do your spiel real quick, and then we'll jump right into it.
yeah, I'm excited to get into this one. So welcome everyone to the Aged Out podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and with me, as always, is
Evan Worrell.
And before we get into this and introducing our guest, make sure you head over to social media, Facebook, Instagram, follow us so you never miss an update on any of the content we put out. You know, if you're listening on podcast services, go to YouTube. We have all kinds of stuff over there. And then vice versa. If you're on YouTube, if you want to prefer to listen in your car, all that stuff, we're on all the major podcast services, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. And if you want to support us financially at all, head to patreon.com/agedoutpodcast. We have a $1 tier pretty much. And if you can't support us financially, we still appreciate and love all of you. The viewership is all we need, you know. So, all right, Evan, take it away. Do
Yeah.
the thing.
So funny story about hooking up with Scott Johnson, as everyone can tell from the name and the description, is he had commented on a YouTube video we did. I think we were talking about judging or something like that, or maybe as one with Rudy or Jeff Brooks. But I 100% thought it was a troll YouTube account saying like, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you guys." And I remember I responded like, "Ah ha ha, we'd love to talk to the real Scott Johnson as well." Duh. And then I think I said something like, "Tell him to send us a message on Instagram." And then
Yeah,
lo
you
and
did.
behold, Scott did send me a message on Instagram. So I was like, "Oh crap, sweet." And then one thing led to another, and he graciously accepted our invitation to come on and chat with us. So, Scott, without further ado, thanks for joining us. Welcome. We'd love to have you, man. We appreciate it.
So there we go. Cheers,
There it
boys.
is. Cheers.
Yeah, it's good to be here finally. I've loved checking you guys out and following the path of all your podcasts. So it's been a lot of fun, especially nowadays where before this past season not having anything. So all these things have been created because of that. So it's pretty cool. Good job, guys.
Appreciate it.
No,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Appreciate that.
We love to just kind of be genuine about our opinions of the activity, but always in an uplifting way that just continues to move it forward. Because obviously it gave so much to us, and we loved it so much. So we just want to try to inspire and appreciate the current generation. So, and I'm sure you've had many people in many generations. Obviously, you're a legend and an icon in the activity. I guess before we jump into some of this current stuff, just give us a little bit brief synopsis how you got into DCI, how you got into drums in general.
It's brief.
Wow.
I had I have two older sisters who twirled baton growing up, and so pageantry parades and shows every weekend when I was growing up as a kid, basically. And I started taking drum lessons at 4 years old because all the guys were hitting drums and all the girls were twirling batons, so it was going to be one or the other. So I started hitting stuff, and so mom and dad hooked me up with drum lessons. So I took private lessons at the age of 4. That's right.
Or
Yeah, I was
That's
4.
young.
Hey, just so you guys know, my first lesson was Mama, Dada, Mama, Dada. So I was 12 at age 4. I just want to get it out there.
You hear that, everybody? Everyone starts at the same place.
Yeah, that's right. There, absolutely. And that was formed into a drum and bell corps before bugles were even added. And this is like the '60s and early '70s. And then in the early '70s, we added bugles, became a drum and bugle corps called the Royal Airs. And the funny story is, I grew up in this. Our group was called the Royal Family, and it had the Rhythmettes batons, the Red Knight Drum and Bell Corps, the Royal Airs Drum and Bugle Corps, and it was all the Royal whatever, right? And our biggest competitor, Blue Devils, who had Majorettes, the Blue Devil Drum and Bell Corps, the Blue Devil. So I was raised to hate the Blue Devils, which is really ironic, because that became my home, obviously. But I was literally raised to beat the crap out of those guys every time we went up against them. So that was pretty interesting. Basically, I was in that drum corps. It ended up folding in 1974 after the '74 season. And then I was either going to go to Santa Clara or go to Blue Devils, because I was also taking lessons from Jim Alcoffin, who was Santa Clara Vanguard at the time, and wrote my first solo for me when I was 12, and so I had a little in with him. But Bob wanted me to go to Santa Clara. So I went to a couple rehearsals in 75. I was going to be in the 75 Santa Clara snare line, and my stay home this summer. I think we need to build an addition onto the house, and I need your help. So I didn't do drum corps that year. Hung out with mom and dad and the family and a lot of my friends. And then 76 came around, and all my friends who were in that small drum corps with me, everybody went to the Blue Devils. Peer pressure. They go, you got to come to the Blue Devils. Come on, don't go where it's already perfect, because Santa Clara was really good back then. So I made the switch, and I went to Blue Devils in 76. So I've been there kind of sort of on and off. I was in the snare line for 4 years, 76, 77, 78, 79. And in 78, our snare tech quit right before tour. So in a panic stage, director, Jerry Seawright, hired me to be a snare tech from inside the snare line. He actually hired two of us who were been around a few years, and we actually I got a paycheck to march in the Blue Devils my last 2 years. I got a check of $100.
I bet not many people can make that statement for any drum corps to be a member.
Oh, well, one guy that can, because he was with me. But yeah, I got $100 a month for my last 2 years marching. And back then, man, that was rent. It was jamming, because I got to pay rent from just doing what I love to do. And that turned into just a full-time teaching job. As soon as I aged out in 79, I kept teaching Blue Devils. Went through all those years with Tom Float through the 80s. And I wanted to get out of drum corps. I had a really bad taste after the 88 season with the judging system wasn't whatever. So I didn't want to teach anymore, and then realized I want to come back to teaching after I took a year off in 89. And 90, went to the Blue Devil office and said, hey, I'm ready to come back. And they go, well, we can't pay you anything because we got this person and this person and this person. And I went, okay, that's kind of weird. So let me see what else is out there. So I called my good friend Glenn Crosby, who was like a brother to me. He lived at my house for a few years when he marched the Blue Devils. And I told him the story. I can't believe they don't want to hire me, And he goes, what? And he hangs up on me. And this is back before cell phones. So he hangs up on me. So about 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's Ralph Hardin. And I hear, yo, you're hired. I go, hired? I can't teach the red team. Come on, we're the blue team. We can't teach the red team. And Ralph talked me into teaching them, so I taught Santa Clara in 90 with them as a consultant originally, but that turned into a full-time teaching thing. And then Ralph left at the end of 90 season, so I took over 91 as the caption head. That was my first caption head gig, was 91, 93, and then 94, it was time to go back to Blue Devils, so went back to Blue Devils in 94 as a caption head, and still surviving.
Not a bad
there's
first
the long
caption
story.
head gig. Not a bad organization to start out your
No,
your
it's a
caption
pretty
head
pretty
career.
solid start. But I'm gonna pause us for a second.
Just from the
ahead,
talent that was there, it's probably still arguably one of the best quad lines in existence. That 92 SCV quad line.
Agree.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna pause us for a second. So there's a potential chance you watching this are gonna see a fade in and out real quick here. You've probably heard the crackling and stuff with Scott's mic.
So obviously joined back up with the Blue Devils, and I don't want to say the rest is history because it's still being made. But obviously you've been a part of some prolific shows, ensembles, percussion sections, just the whole 9 yards. What are some years, and kind of put you on the spot, not that you would say the best, but just that stand out? It's like, oh man, that was a fun summer, or this summer was like just a wild ride with these dudes, or what?
When people ask me favorite line or something like that, I always say, 2023. That's going to be my favorite line. Hopefully that's going to be the case.
Good answer.
But there's way. I mean, longevity is a crazy thing. I've been obviously doing this for decades. It's been 5 decades I've been teaching at that level with the group, so it's pretty stupid. One of my favorite shows, believe it or not, was when I did the Sound of Silence with the deaf girl, and that was just really an emotional show that we put together, and it was all legit. I mean, we got her from the School for the Deaf, and that was just really spectacular. And it was funny because the judges loved the concept so much, that's all they would talk about. Meanwhile, the drum line was playing their ass off. I had a lot of Blue Devil guys who were in that line that were just, I mean, it was stupid clean.
For
I remember
us
going to the
non-drum
critique
corps
one.
historians, what year was that?
You know, '01, '02, somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Gotcha.
And I remember talking to the judges saying, have you checked out the drumming? Is anybody actually listening to what they're playing? Because everybody just loved the concept so much. I'm going, man, we're getting shafted because they're not even listening to what the hell these guys are playing. So it was a year. '09 was a great year for Blue Devils just because we're undefeated as a drum corps, and we were undefeated as a percussion section, which, you know, hasn't happened in a long time before that. So yeah, so those are two of my favorites, I guess, that I had to say, so I'd give that up.
I definitely have a love-hate relationship with '09 since I was at Crown in '09, but that's all right. And we were
What place did you guys take? What place were you guys at?
Second in percussion, second overall. So I
Congrats.
remember we saw the recap, like, oh, we got a 19-7. They were like, BD got a 19-9, and I were like, all right, chasing perfection.
Blue Devils, man, they just win rings. They just beat everybody all the time. I feel like a lot of people have stories like that.
Yeah, Dean was there, and I know Dean, he marched 2009, 2010, so we'd always text back and forth, just like, I don't know, talking crap to each other. It was fun. So
You do. That's good.
Healthy competition.
But obviously the Blue Devils as an organization have gone through just so much historic success, but also I would just say change with the times. And you guys have a unique relationship there as well, where the staff that's there, at least the core staff, has been there for so long. There's so much continuity that definitely is not in place everywhere. I guess could you speak on that a little bit, just how you guys are able to operate year in and year out and just keep the same people on the team? I'm sure winning helps, but obviously you have to like each other too, or else you'd only put up with so much.
A big part of it. I mean, everybody gets along great. There's we don't even talk about captions. It's not about captions. It's never been about captions. It's always about, you know, what can the success of the organization, how do we make the performers perform? And we're all on the same page with that, you know, and if all that other stuff happens, whatever, bonus, I guess, but that's not what we do. We try to do. And, you know, and because of the success, obviously, and because of the staff that hasn't changed that much, a lot of drum corps are still doing nowadays, we get amazing members. I put it on the members every year. It's like the reason the Blue Devils are successful is because of what you guys are doing. You guys and gals are doing. I mean, we get amazing talent every year, and we just got to steer it in the right direction.
And I know we talked with a little bit about Rudy this year, coming off of COVID, and obviously having the kind of off season and the off summer. I think it was obviously a unique experience or challenge for the Blue Devils organization this summer that maybe they have had before, but not for a while, where it did feel maybe it was like a restart. Did it feel like that for you guys as far as like a recruiting standpoint? Like, hey, like a lot of our dudes that we've had for years, just like they're too old now. So we gotta go out and find some new talent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know you guys covered that with Rudy, but yeah, it was an all-rookie drum line. I say all-rookie. There was some that never marched drum corps. You know, we did have some from other drum corps, of course, a lot from our B corps, you know, the open class corps, but it was about as green as you can get for Blue Devils. You know, I want to say that was, you know, and to be honest, that's kind of why I made some hirings of the Brandon Olanders, the Grayson Users, the Elijah Jones, guys who aged out in 19 or would have aged out in 20, because literally they had to teach this line how to unload the truck, how to load the. This is how we eat. This is how we sleep. This is how we rehearse. I mean, because there was nobody leading anybody, you know. So I got some of those recent age outs to help us out, just in as far as just the concept of what we do. So and plus they're great teachers, so that helped out a lot too. It was definitely a little restart for us. You know, the COVID thing was crazy. We never had, obviously, no one's like that, where you know you're worried about that more than you're worried about anything else. You know, you're worried about COVID more than you're worried about injuries, and that's never been the case in our activity. So
yeah,
that was interesting dealing with all that.
Yeah, I mean, Rudy talked about that a little bit in terms of typically you all prefer to hire more experienced educators, you know, people that have been aged out for a little bit, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, I remember 2012. I aged out at the Bluecoats, and Roger was there. Roger Carter was there at that point. Had started teaching there, and in 13 we were all age outs in 12 in the snare line especially. And I think there was supposed to be one vet, and then Joe got hurt and couldn't march. So there were 0 vets in the snare line. So I was around doing some sous vide stuff for a couple days for fun with a buddy of mine after I'd aged out, and they just like asked me to stay for 2 weeks and do some visual stuff. And that was something Roger said. He was like, I almost just want somebody from last summer here, even if you're not like teaching them how to play, help them. I don't know how effective I was at that because it was a whole interesting experience in and of itself, but he said the same sentiment to me of like, we need to instill like that Bluecoats mindset that we started or carried on last season, and there's just nobody here from the last summer in the snare line. So I totally get that, and I think it's smart to be able to adapt and switch your what typically is your approach to things and who you hire and stuff. I'm like, okay, it's a weird year. We have to adapt, kind of bob and weave a little bit and make this work. And I think it makes perfect sense. And obviously, and it felt like the Blue Devils to us watching. I mean, watching you all play from day one of tour, it felt like the BD we know. So
glad it did, because it was a rough start. Definitely a rough start for us, but they came obviously they came a long ways.
No, we told Rudy this too, and I don't want to keep referring back to that the whole podcast, but most improved drum line of the summer, honestly, from day one of tour to the finals, unbelievable, like the strides that were made by that group of kids.
Yeah, I feel like people were kind of critical of us being critical of them early on.
Yeah,
but I mean,
me too.
We knew like what the everybody knows what the standard is. So we would never watch I feel like I would never watch anything with like just fog over my eyes or my ears and be dishonest about it, which I think is one of the things people appreciate just about what we do. It's not everybody appreciates what we do, but a lot of the people that do and come back is that it's like, well, I mean, this isn't great right now, but you know, there's a long summer, there's 80 days, so it is what it is for now. Motivate themselves to get better. That's whatever. They'll figure it out.
Something I want to talk to you two about, because I know you guys put so much emphasis on the lot, the warm up for a show in the lot. And
all right, I'm gonna pause this again. I don't mean to cut you off for a second. Can you unplug? All right,
hit me with it.
All right.
So years old. No, kidding. You want to talk about the lot now? Is that where we're going?
Yeah.
We'll
Let's
pick
go
back up right there and keep going.
Got too excited talking about the lot. Well, and I said it in one of your later podcasts. And I think what you do is you go in the lot, you check out everybody, you know, and you, whatever you call it, judging them in the lot. I remember, well, I'll say this, and this is just me. It's nobody else. But, I mean, the lot is the preparation for the show. That's it. It's not a performance the way we do it. It's not a performance. It has nothing to do with that. And, I mean, we still play really basic exercises, you know. And a few years ago, pre-COVID, I was asking the guys in the line, I go, so you guys want to do like a little show in the lot? You want to play some stuff would draw more people in the lot, you know? And they said, no, this works. We want to just keep doing this. And I go, all right, cool. So we've never changed that, obviously. You know, one of my peers, and I won't mention the drum corps they taught, but they did if you want to call them little tunes, or it wasn't exercises, it was just stuffed, you know? And they would get a big crowd or a bigger crowd, whatever. And I asked him, you guys do that? And he looks at me and he goes, we do that? I went, whoa, that's
Did you
genius.
say recruiting?
Recruiting.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God, I never thought of that. That's genius. You know, I honestly never thought that would be a recruiting thing, being the old school guy that I am. But obviously it works for a lot of different groups. But the lot is a preparation for the show. And to be honest, with the Blue Devil drumline, for example, the only time we stand still and play through our music twice is at a show in the lot. We never do that at a rehearsal. We don't have time to do that at a rehearsal. We're on the field, you know, 7 with the rest of the ensemble. We don't have percussion time on the field by ourselves anymore. That left years ago, because the ensemble is integral part with props and everything else. You have to have everybody there for a visual rehearsal, for a music rehearsal, whatever. So we're on the field, you know, we do a quick 20-minute warm-up, get out on the field. and whatever it is, it is. So they never stand still, other than the lot,
Right.
other than when we first learned music, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But like it's just interesting that people put so much emphasis on the lot because it kind of cracks me in a funny way.
So in our defense a little bit, I will say, and I bet Evan, you're about to say the same thing or something similar, that we do put like qualifiers to a lot of what we say. Sometimes we're like, look, we're evaluating how clean they are and stuff, but obviously on the move is a different story. So, when we go over scores and stuff, we'll say this group beat this group, and I know we said the group they beat was better from the reaction videos we made and stuff, but like you said, some groups rehearse more on the move, and I would say I've seen groups that by the end of summer, you do it on the move so much, and it sounds like this is kind of the approach that you all take, that they are better moving and playing than they are standing still, because you just practice it more. And so,
by far.
Group A could be cleaner standing still in the lot than B, but B cleans their clock on the field, and it's like, well, so we do put that qualifier a lot. We fully understand. Go ahead, Evan.
I think it was after the Atlanta regional or something. I was like, look, I fully realize that I'm giving lot superlatives here for like one of the best drum lines I've heard in a warm up or something like that to groups. But I also do have a bone to pick with the lot too, which is in regards to lot drill. I think it's stupid. I just don't agree with it. I don't know. It's so annoying to watch. If lot drill was so important, then why don't the horn line do it? Like, they're in way more environmental. But they're in way more environmentally challenging like sets and changing the listening environment than the battery ever is. I mean, usually if you're in a drum line, you're in a line or in a cube or you're like split. I mean, those are probably the most common
integrated
things.
Sometimes, but I get doing the body. I mean, I agree mostly, Evan. Like, I get doing the body in the lot. That makes sense, but
you don't think the listening situation changes in all those different forms?
Oh, it does.
I do, but again,
they usually listen to on the field. So, Evan, what you're saying is you want the lot to be about you, and not about the guys.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I got you. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
I mean, if they're not doing the drill, they're not doing the drill. I mean, but I get setting up some certain shapes, but man, some groups is gotten crazy. They're like doing like they need like a 30-yard by 30-yard space for their warm up. I'm like, oh man, I can't. The same thing. If your guy that's talking about recruiting, it's like, if you want me to watch the lot as a recruit, better let me get in there.
Oh man.
But no, I mean, you think about it, and for a normal rehearsal day, okay, not even a show day, a rehearsal day, you'll do a visual block, you'll get stretched out, you do a lot of whatever, you get your body in shape for the rehearsal, you get warmed up from your musical chops, and then you go out and you do the stuff. Well, we don't have any visual warm-ups at shows. So that becomes our visual warm-up as far as doing some of the little drill things we do and getting them to move instead of just stand still and play. Because trust me, I grew up standing still and playing. Even on the field, we didn't march. I was on the 50-yard line. If I had a good show, man, my shoes were white from the chalk on the field. That's when I know I had a great cool show, because I went up and down the 50. That's how you nailed my dot. But it's a visual warm-up as well as an audio warm-up nowadays. Times change.
Yeah, I think the lot is super mentally preparing, like putting yourself in the right. And honestly, for me, lots were way more stressful than the shows. Having people like right in front of you, your peers,
up close. You bet.
Like people right in there. It was way more stressful than like just being on the field. Like once I got on the field, it was like, all right, this is muscle memory kicking in. Like it's fine.
Also said it, the whole judging, whatever you want to call it. And I did this quote before you guys did, where it's maybe when you're judged now in DCI percussion, 20% battery, maybe 80% front ensemble.
This is a perfect segue.
I mean, that's what it is now, and that's what it. And for this new system that showed up in 2019 that nobody liked. Well, I shouldn't say that. The visual guys love it.
Do they? Because now they're forced to put the battery in situations that they maybe wouldn't have before, because you got to read them.
It's like, hey, we need to read the battery a little bit, so let's move the winds out of the way and set up an indoor drumline show real quick behind the front and have a little indoor drumline moment, basically. I don't know. I'm not...
Push this new system through?
What?
Who was it?
Who was it?
I guess I could say, because it is public knowledge. You can go and see. It was Michael Gaines with Santa Clara Vanguard. off the field.
Off the-
And
Yeah,
I was at the Congress, the rules, and I was fighting till I was blue in the face, because it's been talked about for literally 30 years, 15, 20, 30 years. It's been talked about the judges getting in the way of the visual design, and he's causing injuries. That's been talked about since I've been around. All right. But it's also what we all loved about the activity, which separates the percussion activity in DCI to any college marching bands, WGI, indoor percussion. That's what separated us from everybody else, is that judge in front of you, with you, which I loved. And I didn't want to lose that. And I was in the room when the directors made the final vote, and I was amazed at how many people voted for that rule, and only I think 3 groups didn't. The Blue Devils, and I think it was like Pacific Crest or somebody like that. And I was so bummed out. I'm going, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to come back on it's about me and this is what I want, but just
It's all good.
We're all a little selfish at the end of the day.
As a fan, as a performer, even like getting those tapes back with that just like very intimate relationship that you had with the judge, and like they were just right there. Like I have tapes from when I marched where it's like I know the judge is literally standing in front of my drum right now. Like what you're hearing like is me.
Yep.
And there was something so unique about that and just very personal. And I don't know. I always come back to a quote that I heard that maybe it was from Mark Thurston or something when people propose WGI rule changes. It's like, well, do we want to credit the members or do we want to credit the designers? And while the design is almost woven into every caption through like content or repertoire or this or that, I think that you still want to credit the members and what they do, like the execution. And when you're handcuffed to 8 feet by the yard line or sideline, you're going to talk about design a lot more because that's what you read.
Me going on that, I was one of the, again, at WGI, they took points away from my sheet. I do the music sheet downstairs, used to call hands, used to call, how well you play what you play. Right? That was the sheet that I wanted to do. I wanted to be up down in the low seats, and I wanted to hear everything. And they took 10 points away from my sheet to add to the second judge. Freaked. I go, you're taking points from the performers playing their music, and you're giving more points to the designers. And they go, yep, that's what the instructors wanted.
Yikes.
I called Sean Vega, who was still teaching RCC at the time, going, are you out of your mind? What are you guys doing? I was so pissed off. So pissed off. I couldn't agree with you more. It's got to be about the players, right? That's when we marched. That's what we thought, right?
Yeah.
This out. Stand right in front of me. Check this out.
I mean,
now,
the kids don't come to the lot to watch, like, whatever designer, Tom Rarick or Scott Johnson or Tom Ungst or whoever. I mean, they know those people and they respect and they appreciate them, but they come to see the beats. Like, this is what brought me here. Like, this just visceral, emotional connection. So, yeah, we ran on the judge thing, and we've had some DCI judges on here, and I totally get they're employed by their employer and they're part of the game, and like they're not gonna go against the system that pays them and allows them to also get to do this awesome job they have. But I still just in my mind, I'm not gonna die on this hill, but I'm gonna plant my flag pretty deep.
Very deep flags as well, and I still got to go with the system, right? You got to still stay relevant, stay
right
in judging, teaching, and performing, and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. I did a judging gig with Jeff Ostemore after DCI was over in Texas, and good friend. We've done a lot of stuff together, and just talking about the season. And he actually, every judge that I've talked to hates the system, hates it. They want to get out there, talk to hates the system. They want the judges to get out there, but why aren't they out there? That's my big question all the time. But talking with Jeff, what was real interesting is he did the same thing that we do. He goes, after over, I got on YouTube and I watched everybody in the lot. Oh my God, I had no idea these guys were playing all that stuff. And I go, exactly. You've never seen it.
You can't hear it. And then you run into how much of the show do the batteries actually have to be perfect on. that you to be the best overall percussion section. I mean, okay, we're up in the front, and like, so I don't know if you listened to this part of one of our previous podcasts, but we did a time like breakdown of, I watched, I think it was Allentown this past summer, and so I think Lightsky was on the field. Was that whoever it was? I picked him out before the first group started. When I turned it on, I watched like the top 8 of the last 8 groups, and I timed essentially with a stopwatch on my phone.
I think Oscar was on the show there.
Yeah, either way, whoever the judge was, I basically recorded based on where I could see the battery was and where the judge was positioned and what was between them, how much time in the entire show I felt the judge could probably effectively evaluate the intricacies and the balance and blend and the difficulty and the clarity of the battery was playing. I mean, you're talking like 2 minutes and change for most groups.
Right.
Now, you could do a plus or minus 30 seconds for my own personal judgment, just to count for error, but that's still 3 minutes, best case scenario.
Like, I don't even care
of a
if
12-minute show.
Yeah, 11 to 12-minute show.
Yeah.
If the snares are standing 20 feet off the sideline, but they're in between like the trumpets of any DCI, you ain't hearing that shit.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you're just not gonna hear it. They're too good. They're too loud. It's not gonna get heard.
No.
A
decade or so ago, Joe Allison did the same kind of a study on the drum judge who was on the field.
Yes.
And how time to actually judge as opposed to run and get out of the way and be afraid and all that stuff. And it was like 30, and he had his students do it from his college, right? And they would literally listen to tapes and talk about the comments and have, as the show went on with, I don't know, 10 groups or whatever. And they came to us like maybe 35% of the time they were able to judge and not worry about getting hit. And I remember going, hell yeah, I'll take 35%. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I tried to find that study. He taught at Eastern Kentucky University here in Richmond, where I live. And I know people that were involved in that. They're up there like stopwatches and this and that. They were doing the study. So I've tried to find it before, but I don't know how to search for it. But, oh well, it is what it is. And I think that segues well to, like, the game is the game. You got to play the game. And the Blue Devils organization and you guys specifically,
what do you call the game?
The game, the system. Like, the system is the system, and you have to work with what you have. Like you know,
rules
the judges...
the rules that are established, the judging system. We have to try to figure out from a competitive standpoint, how do we get read the best way possible in the world we live in now?
Chess has rules. Certain pieces can only move in certain directions. You have to utilize them to the best of your ability. Yep. So things that I've heard from not only adjudicators, but just people who are in the ensemble talk about how open and receptive the staff is to making changes that satisfy the judges, which is, I mean, insanely smart and makes sense. If you want to do well, it's a competitive activity. Like, why not appease the people that are writing the numbers down? Is that something that you've always felt that you've had in you, or something in recent years you've been like, you know what, why would I fight it? If they don't like it, I'll change it, whatever?
Well, I guess it depends on the judge, if you respect that judge or not. Because there's a lot of times people have said stuff and it's like, what an idiot. We're not doing that. And there's stuff even this past year where it was Brooks. He made a couple of suggestions, and I thought about him going, he's right.
Yeah,
so we did.
That was go ahead. Sorry.
Enhance the show. To influence his numbers, to be honest. I was doing it to make the show better, to be, that's what we do. We try to make the show entertaining and better for everybody. That's kind of the goal. And I know we don't really think about the numbers and the judges that much, too, I guess. You have to, because it's a competitive thing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It's a competitive sport that we do, right? So you got to, as you call it, play the game. But at the same time, we're just trying to get the performers to play the best they possibly can and have a good time doing it. And if the numbers work out.
That's the way to look at it. I think that makes sense. But all right, pause real quick, Evan. I know how to fix your crackling, Scott.